All right, we'll go ahead and get started here today, and I'll keep an eye on the waiting room as folks continue to join. Thank you, everyone, for joining our December Sustainability Series. Today, we have Shannon Jahn joining us from the City and County of Denver. She is their Green Workforce Lead in the Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency. Shannon works to implement both the Climate Protection Fund and Green Workforce Development Strategy in Denver, with goals to create career pathways and expand opportunities for individuals from under-resourced communities and enable a just transition to support a climate resilient and sustainable Denver. Her presentation today will focus on how they implement their green workforce strategy to expand job opportunities for under-resourced individuals through paid training programs and partnerships with employers, trade organizations, training providers, and community organizations in both renewable energy and natural resource pathways. Please feel free to raise your hand or leave questions in the chat throughout today's presentation. We would like it to be engaging, so feel free to jump in throughout the presentation if questions arise. We will save some time at the end for additional questions and discussion as well. So with that, I will hand it over to Shannon. And Shannon, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me today. Good afternoon, everyone. And just a full disclosure, if I disappear, I've been having internet issues all morning, so I will jump back on my phone, and we have a backup plan to keep slides going. So thanks for having me. Yes, I'm Shannon Jahn. I get to hold this awesome role as Green Workforce Lead for the City and County of Denver. Our agency, we also go by CASR, so you might hear me referring to that acronym, since, in government, we like our acronyms. So this is me. I have been at CASR for 2.5 years, and prior to my role in this seat, I was in the Economic Development Office doing workforce development for IT and healthcare careers. So workforce development is a huge passion of mine professionally, and then climate work is a professional or a personal passion of mine. So these two roles came together nicely, and I feel like I found my dream job. Prior to being with the city, I spent about a decade in higher education at the University of Denver. So working with others has always been something I enjoy thoroughly, and I want to try to find success for everyone that I come in contact with. So let's go to our agenda. Feel free to ask questions along the way, like we mentioned, and if you want to save them at the end, that's fine too. But definitely want to give some highlights about, how to create some green workforce programming, what some stakeholder mindset shifting might look like, some benefits of labor standards, what they are if you're unfamiliar, and how to tap into those, and then creating quality training programs, sharing the programs that we've done over the last 2 years, and beyond. So thanks again for having me today. So some background on our agency. In November 2020, Denver voters approved a 0.25% sales tax increase that created the Climate Protection Fund. This fund gives our office about $40 million a year to be spent on these 6 allowable uses you can see listed here. Our goal is to have at least half of the funds directly benefiting people in our communities that are most burdened by climate change impacts. And then within terms of what we do, our agency works to create policies and programs that really strengthen the economic vitality of Denver. And then we also are passing new public policies that require buildings to achieve net zero by 2040. With dedicated workforce funds as an allowable use here, we're really aiming to establish and support existing job training opportunities for our individuals who are historically underrepresented in clean energy and natural resource pathways. Oops, sorry. This also means that we're really trying to pay close attention to job quality and career path potential of the jobs that we're supporting. And so thinking about creating stepping stones of opportunity as we accelerate building decarbonization. And so this in mind, we've established labor standards and a green workforce strategy that aligns with our climate goals and decarbonization goals. And you'll get to see those a little bit later here as we get into this presentation. So before I go too far into the details of what exists today, I kind of wanted to step back and tell you how it all started, because it really paints a good picture if you're kind of in the process of doing this as an agency. In 2021, a task force was established called Energize Denver, and this was really to help the city design building performance policies that improve health and equity, create jobs, and then drive climate solutions in our buildings. And as you can see, the task force was really diverse, with folks representing industry, trade organizations, union organizations, and a variety of other stakeholders here in Denver. And then with having this diverse group, we were able to really reduce any gaps that might exist in creating a green workforce strategy. This task force created a cadence in which our work groups were formed, and then many recommendations were made from these work groups, specifically that of creating quality, equitable jobs to ensure that our residents are trained, ready for this transition to net zero, and then continuing to operate and maintain the buildings and homes beyond the transition. These designated work groups were strategic in planning and working in tandem with one another, and the workforce working group did a great job of incorporating workforce experts from the city's economic development office and members of third-party groups called Inclusive Economics and Delivery Associates, if you're familiar, to identify some of the growing needs of green career pathways in our local economy. And then based on the collaboration and the stakeholder feedback, a framework of quality jobs, priority population targets, and staffing needs really became a reality, which in turn created an opportunity for me to exist in this role and create a team that supports our green workforce strategy. Another outcome of this working group was an ecosystem or job analysis, if you will. And this was conducted by the Inclusive Economics third-party vendor that determined that efficiency work had the greatest local job impact in our market, resulting in, on average, of 300 new careers in electrification and up to 1,300 new careers in building efficiency alone, just in Denver. This prompted the Workforce Working Group to create a high road clean energy workforce vision, which I think you heard it in the intro, was to create career pathways and expand opportunities for individuals from under-resourced communities and really enable a just transition to support a climate resilient and sustainable Denver. So in these graphs, you can see the breakdown of work by trade, which told the story of the types of jobs we should really focus our efforts on. And specifically jobs like plumbers, electricians, laborers, solar techs, HVAC techs, energy auditors, et cetera, mainly around the trades industry, to put some of our energy in creating these programs and training opportunities. This slide shows where these recommendations became a reality through the creation of this workforce strategy. And so, as you've heard the vision already, but we really feel like our actions are just as critical in the establishment of training or establishing our quality training careers. So we work in partnership closely with employers to really understand what their needs are, trade organizations, training providers, whether they're one-off or K through 12, post-secondary, technical colleges, you name it, to reduce barriers and increase access to our job seekers from under-resourced communities. And then also we're not leaving out our workers from industries in transition, specifically oil and gas. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but the program deliverables listed here really align with the labor standards that I mentioned earlier and are a part of every single RFP that we release as a green workforce team, and feel that it's really critical that we ask our providers that receive our dollars and create these programs to embed all of these program deliverables. And you'll see how they're shaking out in a little bit. Our definition of ecosystems and contributes to adaptation and climate change. So each of these segments that are listed here have a variety of occupations and pathways that we've identified: growth, quality, employment. Our role now consists of working with training programs and providers to add a greener curriculum to existing programs or develop brand new programs that achieve industry recognized credentials and full-time employment opportunities. Are you having any issues seeing me? I just had a thing pop up.
No issues seeing you, a little bit just on like a leg sometimes with the speaking. Oh, okay. I will pull up the slides in case she has to join by her phone here. Hi, Shannon. It looks like you're back on. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, how you
It
doing?
looks like you're back on.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I apologize, everyone. Major difficulties today with my internet. I don't know what you heard last. Did you get most of the green job definition here?
I believe so.
Okay, great. And then to highlight each of these segments, we have a variety of occupation and pathways that we've identified as high growth quality employment. And so our role consists of working with training programs and providers to either add greener curriculum to existing programs or trainings, or create brand new from scratch that really achieves industry recognized credentials and full-time employment opportunities. Next slide, please. So in the next 4 slides, I wanted to highlight some things to consider as you support or plan any green workforce programming from scratch for your divisions. And the first consideration is really to conduct an ecosystem analysis. We did this last year with the help of industry groups and our trade organizations and a few community organizations that helped us identify qualitative and quantitative information on the state of the green workforce and quality jobs ecosystem in the Denver area. We are also about to release a brand new ecosystem analysis that is targeting beneficial electrification and specifically around residential workforce needs. And these ecosystem analyses are really amazing, helping us deliver future impact workforce development programs that achieve our climate goals in tandem. And so with this one we did last year, we were able to identify some employment gaps, training needs in the market, and address, again, labor standards, such as local hiring targets, worker skill requirements, prevailing wage, to name a few. And this analysis really helped identify industry training gaps and trends that we ended up incorporating into a future RFP that was released in 2022. I guess it's past now, but this pulled industry gaps to the surface and focused not only on clean energy and construction careers, but also natural resource pathways as well. Next slide, please. Additionally, our ecosystem analysis identified ways to support the economic growth and development of our small, women, and minority-owned businesses, specifically in green trades or technologies. And for us in Denver, one way to ensure we're supporting our minority women-based enterprises is by partnering with our city's own division of small business opportunity. And this agency, and there might be similar ones across other cities, but this agency specifically works closely with our smaller certified minority women-owned businesses with the goal of building kind of relationships and capacity so that they're able to win contracts for construction or professional services throughout the city. With this sister agency, there's been a creation of citywide strategies that have been listed here to develop and create a pipeline of small businesses to pursue the opportunities that we release. And then this also is an overarching goal of our agency, and utilizing these kind of strategies in our contracts and RFPs is really important to us. But this, all being said, was identified in the ecosystem analysis on how to support getting women and minority-owned businesses more capacity, more capital to do the work that they need to do to grow economically. Next slide, please. And so we ran into issues where we had to consider how to shift the mindset of some of our partners who might be a little bit trepidatious about green jobs. And this could be employers who are wary of the impacts to their profitability, or stakeholders who really hold unsavory ideas about the notion of sustainability, or folks just don't really understand the why behind engaging in green jobs. So we came up with some best practices around engaging these stakeholders. And one was to demystify green nomenclature. And so while the term green is broadly understood and related to sustainability, employers really in the skilled trades may feel disconnected. And we've focused on trade-specific terms such as energy efficiency or electrification, or installation of trade-specific equipment is getting better, is getting across better. Also, industry may feel that it does not pencil out to begin installing newer or greener technologies. Specifically for us, we're running into this scenario with heat pumps. In this case, we've found that it's really important to educate them not only on our why, but also local and federal incentives and initiatives that can help support the change behavior, such as rebates and tax credits. And many cities and states are introducing policies to reduce carbon emissions, especially in the buildings and home sector. And so we will need these folks to install the newer technologies like heat pumps. So educating early and often, not only on code requirements and the benefits of the compliance, but also about on the rebates and incentivizing seems to be working for our industry. We also have our own buildings and homes team within our agency. Sorry, not done yet. With our own agency that provides one-on-one sessions and presentations to trade organizations on these topics and more. And so we're really in the era of change and communications to demystify and support these critical areas to success. Next slide, please. And then lastly, considering the usage of labor standards in scopes of work and contracts. And we created our own set of standards to incorporate some of the task force recommendations that we talked about earlier, along with deliverables and evaluation criteria to match. And we felt it was really important to not only have standard language across the agency, but also deliverables on how we can start benchmarking and publicly reporting on our outcomes. So right now, we are slowly integrating this agency-wide, and our project managers are encouraged to use as many standards as possible in our RFPs, with support of the Green Workforce team, bringing in any type of needed activities or connections to make this work. And something we're all keeping in mind is that this document is fluid and we are reviewing it and improving as needed. Some benefits of labor standards include having prevailing wage requirements such as healthcare and retirement, providing value to the community with engagement and educational activities. And some examples of what our labor standards include are evidence of a skilled trained workforce, making sure your contractor has history of compliance, OSHA safety regulations, et cetera. And also another example could be regional, targeted, and local hiring requirements to ensure that there's participation of underrepresented workers or graduates from some of the training programs that we are standing up to be recruited into these projects. And on the next slide, you can see that this is a screenshot of the document. that we've created, and more than happy to share this with everyone to see just kind of what type of choose your own adventure you can create with labor standards, and really moving the needle in terms of impacting our priority populations and our smaller minority women-owned contractors. And so there's a contractor language section, and then there's a workforce language section, and they have metrics and deliverables attached to both sections, just for examples. Next slide, please. And so in the next few slides, I wanted to share kind of our process in creating our quality training programs with some examples of how we did the scope of work. Broadly, this really involved identifying those careers or sectors of target. And in our first RFP that we released in 2021, we identified that the green building and clean energy sectors as our target pathways, thanks to the Energize Denver outcomes. We received 17 proposals, and they were wide-ranging, including solar installation, green manufacturing, residential energy efficiency job trainings as examples. And while we didn't really receive any proposals related to electric vehicle technology or infrastructure job training, we did end up awarding 6 vendors, each $450,000 for a 3-year contract to create and expand programming related to these green sectors. And I'll give you some updates on those in a few slides. And so before the release of our second RFP, which we've only done 2 so far, as we are still very new in our division, in 2022, thanks to the ecosystem analysis, we determined that current and future green workforce trends in Denver also need to include the expansion into natural resource management sectors, and we're with a focus of water quality, ecological restoration, and tree care as examples. So consequently, we included the natural resource management and also specifically called out EV or e-mobility technology in our second RFP, because those were 2 gaps that we identified. And then in the new year, we this last year, we honed in to expand job trainings in 2 emerging green industries related to 2 separate RFPs. And so one of them being beneficial electrification, which is also coming out in tandem with this ecosystem analysis that should be done hopefully by the end of this week. And again, more in the electric vehicle sector, since we just weren't getting any traction there. And so once we identified these target careers and pathways, we really wanted to make sure that we had our target populations that we were serving. And so for us, that identification includes individuals who are low income, workers from industries in transition, opportunity youth who are usually between the ages of 16 and 24, folks with disabilities, and or residing in one of Denver's under-resourced nest neighborhoods. And we also encourage collaborative proposals that include multiple partners, such as having employers and training providers work together to establish what is a quality training. And we also then incorporate community organizations to provide kind of that full suite of wraparound services for our populations that might need some additional help or barrier reduction. Our scopes have and will include the quality training requirements you see in this box below. So with paid training, we require a minimum of $20 an hour for paid training for all of our programs. Wraparound services or barrier reduction services could include childcare, transportation, tools, union dues, et cetera, just to ensure that we are continuing to uplift our populations that need it the most. And then we want to make sure that we're providing career pathways that include certifications, additional training or long-term training like registered apprenticeships. And then we're also calculating job placement and retention. And in our most recent RFP, we required employer commitments via letters of support to say that they were willing to take individuals that were in these trainings to do on-the-job training experiences that are paid, or roll them up into any apprenticeship programs that they may have. And this requirement really helped ensure our programs were preparing participants for in-demand and employer-approved credentials and pathways. On the next slide, we discuss some of the creating of quality training programs and defining some of those realistic deliverables that we were looking for. And based on that ecosystem analysis we conducted, we require our programs to commit to some of the following outcomes, which are at least 60% of trainees must be individuals from our underserved populations or Denver NEST neighborhoods. And in Denver, most of our under-resourced and vulnerable neighborhoods can be seen here on this map in the darker shades of purple and red. And they just so happen to be a shape of an inverted L. Residents of these communities are not only at high risk for poor health and lower economic vitality, but they're also more vulnerable to climate change impacts such as urban heat island effects. And so in the dark purple areas on the map on the left indicate high levels of vulnerability to social and economic pressures, and they correlate almost exactly to heat vulnerability in Denver. And so through a series of community-based rapid assessments, our agency has prioritized involving these neighborhoods in deciding how we invest our climate protection fund dollars, and specifically green workforce dollars. We're hoping to create benefits and prioritize these communities into paid career pathways, whether that's establishing programs in these neighborhoods or we're supporting them by getting to communities outside of their neighborhoods to be placed into these training programs. And secondly, our awardees commit, all of our vendors or RFP awardees commit to placing at least 75% of their trainees into full-time employment in either a green career, career apprenticeship, registered apprenticeship, or an advanced training program upon completion. And so we are working to track long-term placements around 3 years worth, but this time we just have not had that much time go by to commit to the 3 years. So we've only committed to, or we've only been able to track 1 year's worth of retention and placement. But as our team grows and we have more capacity, we hope to be able to make it that 3-year mark going forward. When it comes to asking our training programs to track their outcomes, we do a quarterly report with varying data sets to back up these 2 deliverables that you see listed here, including the demographic data, outreach efforts, program completion numbers, and then placement numbers into jobs or outcomes. The data in these reports are supplemented by information our vendors share in our monthly check-ins. And this is a regular check-in where we monitor the kind of the minutia of the program development and determine how we can best support the vendor. And we found that some vendors who are creating programs from scratch or are just new to the government process of contracting and compliance need more support from us. And this has really come down to creating some standardized documents such as invoice templates, potential partner connections, or supporting the evaluation of the program design itself. So I don't want to say it's been bad in terms of handholding, but we have found that it's been really necessary when providers or vendors are dipping their toes into these newer emerging markets. Next slide, please. And does anybody have any questions I should ask before I go on? Because I can't see anything on my phone.
None in the chat so far, but yeah, good reminder if folks do have questions throughout, please feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. We'd love to answer them as we work through the presentation. We will have some time at the end too.
Great, awesome. So this slide really highlights the programs or the awardees of our first RFP that I mentioned, and that was released in late 2021. We didn't really kick off the work until 2022. However, we did award $2.6 million in total to the 6 organizations that are listed here to really hone in on clean energy trainings that were either trades focused or specific to the renewable industry. Some of these programs, again, were created from scratch. Some were expansions of existing models. But each of these programs are free to the individual that is taking the course. They're being paid the $20 an hour stipend to participate, and they are provided an industry recognized credential upon completion with the opportunity of a direct path to employment or ongoing education as kind of the overarching goal for all of our programs. Each one, I'll just give kind of a brief highlight as to what they're doing. Denver Public Schools created has a career exploration program that's introducing high schoolers to green energy careers with its Summer Renewable Energy Academy. And this is an 8-week summer program that offers students the opportunity to green careers. They're getting a solar installation basics certificate, and they're applying some of the learning through hands-on projects. They also partner with the African American Trades Association to conduct internship opportunities and potentially roll up into their registered electrical apprenticeship program with the African American Trades Association. So we're really stoked about DPS and what they're doing. Mile High Youth Corps, they have an energy and water conservation program, prepares our young folks between the ages of 18 and 24 by teaching them how to provide low-income residents with an array of services that help lower utility bills while reducing energy and water consumption. And so this program has a mix of on-the-job training, classroom learning, and culminating in certifications, including building science principles and a sustainability excellence certificate. Grid Alternatives has a fellowship program that's 12 months long. It's a paid, again, training pathway that connects individuals from justice-involved communities with training and career opportunities in solar installation and construction. And it's also preparing participants for the NABCEP certification, which stands for the National Board of Certified Energy Practitioners. The International Facility Management Association, or IFMA, they are partnered with Goodwill of Colorado to conduct a sustainability facility management pre-apprenticeship training. It's about 26 weeks in length, and it is in person at Goodwill's facility to teach more sustainable FM practices. And this is more of an upskilling opportunity for existing facility managers or those that have some technical understanding around facility management. And then there's opportunity to roll folks up into their registered apprenticeship program or full-time employment. The Energy Efficiency Business Coalition has brought together a team to provide free online training through the Energy Smart Academy, and they prepare candidates for Building Performance Institute certifications on heat pump technology through Santa Fe Community College's online platform. And Work Now, who's the program of the Community College of Denver, is expanding their existing construction trade skills training to include greener technologies into the trades. And so they're really funneling participants into employment opportunities with one of their 20+ construction partners that they have. So next slide, please. So with outcomes from having year one under our belt, we've really achieved great participation and meaningful impact in our programs. And some of the successes can speak here, in these graphics. In early 2022, nearly 300 individuals enrolled in our programming. At this point, we're almost to 1,000 participants in enrollments, and with a large representation from our target populations that you can see called out here in these sub bubbles. We also had 6 programs that almost equally enrolled youth and adults, which was exciting to see. And we've offered wraparound services to all of our participants that may need them to reduce any barriers to training or employment. And from this image, some of the reported barriers from our participants were the higher ones were ranking in terms of lack of GED or high school diploma, so supporting them in getting that credential, and then a lack of representation in the industry itself. So finding partners like the African American Trade Association to show, that there is some representation out there, as well as being a single parent or without access to childcare. So some of our dollars go towards that supportive service as well. And as we see more funds, or as we fund more programs, we'll continue to access some of these successes across the categories here, and then we can map back to the other outcomes that we spoke of earlier in the presentation, with getting our NEST community members involved more heavily, as well as that 75% placement rate into employment. Next slide, please. And then our second RFP that we've done was released in 2022, but we really didn't kick off any work until the beginning of this year. And again, we did not get any EV related proposals. So that's a market that we know that we need to work on. However, we did get proposals in natural resource management, which is really where we also wanted to have some impact. And of the 7 proposals we received, we awarded these 3 vendors a total of $1 million over the next 3 years. And the park people that's listed here, they have a pre-apprenticeship program called Tree Force. It is an 8-week intensive paid training program to formerly incarcerated or justice involved individuals. This really gives them an opportunity to build skills in urban forestry, and then there's potential for them to attach to the urban forestry registered apprenticeship program through Front Range Community College or go to full-time employment with one of our tree care organizations in the Denver metro area. Groundwork Denver has a green infrastructure training program, and this is geared more towards young adults between 18 and 24. They're getting experience in green infrastructure design, implementation, and management. They're also getting OSHA 10, HAZWOPER 40, and building science principles, so they can have some of these certificates ready to enter into the field. And then Grid Alternatives was awarded a second time, and they were geared more towards an solar accelerator internship program. And this really provides kind of the next step for the initial graduates of the fellowship to have a higher level career trajectory. So again, when we think about workforce pathways, this was kind of that pathway step to work on more management level training. And so this is another 12-month opportunity, and there's 5 different tracks that you can see here, all while being paid. They're getting a little bit more, $27 an hour with full benefits. So this program really speaks to how they commit to supporting their trainees. Let's see. And since this program kicked off in January, we're in the midst of wrapping up our annual metrics, which each of our vendors, we do an annual review every year. And so we don't have the numbers to report today, but we'll very, very soon. However, we do have a success story that I'd like to share on the next slide. And so this is Scott. He gave permission to have his face and words be used in all of our marketing and presentations. And he is a Grid Alternative Solar Accelerator intern. He did the grid programming in 2021 with our initial award, and then has moved into the internship program. And he is currently living in a halfway house and has been recently released from the Department of Corrections. However, since he has completed 4 of Grid's progressive workforce programs, he's really uncovered a passion for solar installation. And as a full-time employee in the Solar Accelerator program, Scott's training towards management pathways in solar installation. And you can see a partial quote here from Scott about his experience, but I'd like to read the full one, which is that Grid Alternatives has changed my life and has been such an innovation for me. Grid Alternatives has presented me with new opportunities and daily teachings that has helped me cultivate skills, knowledge, and experience. I would like to just thank everyone for believing in me and giving me the opportunity to prove myself. Thank you all. And so it's really great to have these success stories and actual testimonials to know that it's working, and that we are ensuring that our dollars are really making the impact that they are supposed to in supporting the individuals that we want to see succeed in life. And on the next slide, even though we just talked about our successes, I think it's worth noting some lessons learned that we've had. And I'll touch on 2 of them here. So the first one being, upon the annual review of each of our vendors from the first RFP, we were only seeing 2 of the 6 on track to meet their 3-year recruitment goals. And so we identified an issue that the vast majority of our populations, or at least priority populations, are just not living in Denver. Denver's become a very expensive city, especially in the last decade, and folks have moved out to I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep, we can.
Sorry. Man, I'm gonna have to call somebody. Um, so I don't know where you heard the last thing that I said, but essentially we found that where we were trying to recruit from just definitely wasn't the mark or the target populations that live in the communities that we were pulling individuals from. So on this slide, we were able to pinpoint where talent in the region currently works versus where they live. And that gave us a better sense of where our recruitment focus should be. And so on this map, you can see this is dedicated specifically for solar technicians. It shows their place of residence and place versus place of work. And you can see that for every 17 solar techs that work in Denver, 10 of them live in an outlying community that has more affordable housing and has a higher concentration of the folks that we're trying to target. So this analysis really gave us leverage to approach city leadership to say, hey, our dollars shouldn't just be impacting Denver residents. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I think we're all used to it in today's day and age of technology.
How about now?
Yep. And you had
Okay.
just left off at kind of the leverage needed um,
Mm,
in looking
okay,
at where they were commuting from.
great. Yeah, this just having this statistical data and actual visual was able to give kind of the green light from city leadership for us to turn our focus on just Denver residents to individuals that either commute into Denver for work or Denver employers or Denver training programs, so that there is a Denver piece in the requirement puzzle, but it's casting a much wider net than we were initially casting. This also has really given us more leverage to educate our Denver employers on the benefits of having their existing staff get upskilled. And specifically, even within the city, we're targeting our facility management team to go through some of these sustainable facility management program that we've created. And it's really exciting to see them take advantage because these credentials and curriculum are influential and impactful in our city processes, let alone for the private organizations that send their employees. And so I almost made it through the slides, but this is the last one. And just wanted to say thank you for having me today, and apologies for the internet. It's been quite a ride. And if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them or get connected later. I'm also happy to chat offline.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I really appreciated the presentation here. I will open it up we don't have any questions in the chat, but if anyone that has joined the call either wants to come off mute if they have any other questions, or if you want to put it in the chat, we can read it off that way as well.
Hi, Shannon. Thank you. I have a question for you. So I'm with the Regional Sustainable Development Partnership. It's within the University of Minnesota system. And one project that we're considering either funding or just providing general resources to is a workforce development in Lake County, which is in Northeast Minnesota. And it's the same problem you were describing where people might want to work in that area, but it's too expensive to live there. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering if you have recommendations for us as we navigate that, where we want new people to learn these trades in this particular spot, but they can't live there, or at least not yet because of the housing prices.
Yeah, it's an issue so many of us are facing in local government, and for us, we're going to start piloting mobile labs, mobile training labs for our community. Okay. So these mobile labs, the idea is to take them to the community, whether it's at a community-based organization that has trusted access to the priority populations that we're trying to serve, and hold these kind of short-term exposure programs to whether it's heat pumps or electrical apprenticeship opportunities, by getting individuals into these labs and getting hands-on kind of exposure that way. And then providing them with the next step opportunity. Another piece of the puzzle is that partnership component, and working directly with like Goodwill Colorado. They've been an amazing partner, trying to identify the individuals that need some of this upskilling or support to get a better career or better training to advance their careers. And they've been able to provide transportation to the facility that they host the training at. So that's been a little bit of a workaround to have like local, it's almost like a shuttle service where they go and pick up individuals in a concentrated area to bring them to the training, and then they return them home, or just giving out bus pass stipends or public transit stipends with our wraparound service dollars, so that folks can use their own methods of transportation to get to the trainings.
Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, I'll think about those, and hopefully some combination of those are something we can pursue. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have one more thing to mention. If you're not familiar with your local workforce development organization, every city, major city, and every state has workforce development councils and boards. There should be physical space. Like, for example, Denver has our own, we have like 3 workforce development centers that specifically help these populations get access to life-changing scenarios. And so if you can find and locate your local workforce center, they might be able to help you kind of get through some of those barriers and challenges with stipends that they have already baked into their systems. So I would highly recommend trying to nail down who that might be in your kind of region, and see what they can partner with in terms of support.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder. I forgot about those, so appreciate it.
Yeah, I know in Rochester, in our region, it's Workforce Development Incorporated, and they've been a really big partner on some of our initiatives we've been trying to kick off in this similar space in the last year or two.
Nice. Yeah, that for some reason workforce development can be the best kept secret, which is a crime in my opinion, because there are so many baked in resources to the work that they do day in, day out, and we just need to take more advantage of what they already have.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I really appreciate you joining us this month, Shannon. We will post the recording of the presentation here on DMC's YouTube channel. And then if there are any follow-up questions, folks, feel free to reach out to myself. I think Shannon's contact information was on that last slide there as well. So happy to share that as well. And just thank you for the insights here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate your time, and I again apologize for the internet snafus. It's just one of those days. But yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out if anybody has any questions, and I'm more than willing to share our sample RFPs and labor standards and things like that, so people don't need to reinvent the wheel or want to pick and choose kind of what maybe some narrative might support the work that you're all doing.
Thank you again.